guys, welcome back to another episode of Year of the Empire. This week we're reviewing a movie called Dolls. Now this movie came out in...
The echo doesn't
It did. In 1987. And it was directed by Stuart Gordon, who, even though we haven't reviewed his movies yet, he made Re-Animator, so he's like a horror movie legend.
Did he make any other phenomenal horror movie?
He's made another movie we will review called From Beyond that I've seen. I personally like it. It's not as good as Re-Animator, but that's another episode. But this guy has made some pretty big horror movies, and honestly, I gotta say, Dolls is one of my favorite that I've watched.
That was a good one. I'd watch again.
You can really
totally
tell,
would watch again.
like, it was given, like, the budget that a lot of these movies that we've been watching had, but they just did so much more with it. The location was pretty cool. It was, like, in this sort of Italian-looking mansion.
Yeah, creepy mansion.
Yeah, it was like an old dark house kind of movie, but was killer dolls, which, as you probably would have guessed, it is pretty much the precursor to Puppet Master.
It's a proto Puppet Master. You could see a lot of elements of Puppet Master in it, which was kind of cool to see where some of the ideas came from.
There's the only doll really by name in this is called Mr. Punch, and you can kind of see how that guy morphed into the Jester. There's a bunch of toy soldiers that shoot people with these tiny guns that kind of makes you think a six-shooter. It was all a bunch of little things.
Throwback to our
because
old reviews.
you should also watch Year of the Full Moon.
Heck, if they're watching this, they've already watched.
Yeah, our view count is so much lower than compared to Year of the Full Moon. So thank you to that one guy who's still watching, hopefully. Anyways, going back to this movie. So Wiz Dolls, it opens up with probably the two worst parents in the history of cinema. One of them's a stepmom, but like they just treat their daughter like crap. Like even like the biological dad, they're like
he's not like horrible at the beginning. He just gets worse as time goes on.
But they're like going on a vacation in like middle of nowhere Britain, and they're from like America, so I don't know why they thought that would be a fun idea.
Not everybody was British sounding.
No, except the two girls that they meet
are British.
That are hitchhiking. They're as British can be.
Straight out of London.
But they're just traveling this countryside, get stuck. It's raining. They go inside this house to take shelter.
They just go inside the house.
They just break into it.
Yeah, that's a crime.
And the people there, it's like this old man and this old woman who you can clearly tell, like, yeah, they're up to no good. But I will say the old man, he's played by Guy Rolfe, who's a famous actor in horror movies from years past. But if you're watching this,
no relation to James Rolfe.
No relation to the Ingrid.
I would love that though.
Guy Rolfe, though, he played Toulon in the third Puppet Master when they
arguably one of the better Puppet Masters,
possibly the best. But he also then played like the puppet version of him in 4 and 5, and he's when you think of Toulon, even though he wasn't the first guy to play it, but that was Willie Hickey. He's Toulon. So, anyways, great actor. And actually, you know, the acting in all this is pretty good. Like, even sometimes when the characters are over the top, they're like kind of over the top in like a purposeful, like well acted kind of way, which typically they aren't in these movies, especially Full Moon.
Sometimes you'll get like one or two solid people, and then the rest are just like, this is horrible.
But yeah, I would say mostly everyone pretty much holds up.
I'm a fan.
So I'll get to like why I love this movie in a second. It's one guy in particular. But was the movie once they're like the old couple's all nice and hospitable, and
it's a nice old
the two hitchhikers show up along with this dude named
Ralph.
Freaking Ralph.
Love Ralph. Favorite character in movie history.
The best character in the history of cinema. Like I will boldly make that claim.
I latched onto it so hard now that it's like I'm thinking about making a shirt that just says Team Ralph.
I'll throw up a picture so you know what I'm talking about. But this dude was. You ever like watch a movie and be like, "Wow, I really hope these guys die." Exact opposite. I was like,
the whole time I'm rooting for this guy. I'm like, he's the one good person in this entire movie.
He picks up these two hitchhikers, and they treat him like crap. And when he gets there, he just wants to be a kid at heart. He sees all these dolls that the person has, and the little daughter is totally like into it, like of the angry couple or whatever. And then he is also like kind of like a child at heart, and he loves it. And he kind of bonds with that girl, and he just gets after one of the hitchhiker dies. The other hitchhiker thinks he's the murderer, and then the
The horrible dad.
Yeah, the horrible dad thinks that he's like a pedophile and is like trying to get with his daughter.
He's just getting accused on everything, and then the girl runs away as the dad's chasing him, and then she finds her way back to Ralph later on, and Ralph's like,
"You probably shouldn't be here with me.
Your dad's gonna kill me."
I'm just trying to tell you guys that someone died, and now I'm a murderer and a child molester. And this character is just such a sweethearted person. I'm surprised that he lasted as long as he did, or maybe he survived the whole movie. No spoilers. But I'll just say he's a great character. But on top of that,
favorite character.
Besides being the best character in the history of the world, he in this whole movie has like some really solid effects, like on multiple fronts.
Pretty brutal kills in it too.
Like getting heads smashed against walls. There's other stuff where they're like sawing just at the evil stepmom's limbs. And it just gets really brutal. And it also, there's like a morphing effect that happens later on.
Oh, it was solid.
Yeah, the doll's moving. There's puppetry. You can see some wires. There's some animatronic ones, but there's some stop motion that is solid.
Stop motion was solid.
Solid stop motion. Like if I had to say anything about the stop motion, I would say it's solid, definitely.
Because you don't get much more solid.
Yeah, this is definitely.
It was just solid.
Stop motion I've seen in a while. I don't know why we did that. But anyways, solid stop motion aside, there's also like cool effects, like when the dolls get
like the solid stop motion.
Actually the solid stop motion was pretty good. But I do think the solid stop motion was okay. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, we went on way too long.
Way too long. So anyways, when they bust some of the dolls later on, there's like decaying heads, like miniature heads inside. It's
which
like
was a really cool
effect. You kind of see, I know like if you haven't seen Re-Animate, you don't know what I'm talking about, but you can see like that kind of just thinking was this, like you can see the connections between that movie and this movie and see where the director was coming from. It's just, the little details in this movie is there, even though the body count isn't that high. Like
I think there's like 8 people in the whole movie.
Yeah, and only like half of them die. But when they do die, it's like kind of long and it lingers, and you get like a lot out of it, and like they get their butts kicked.
Honestly, I think there was 8 people in that movie.
I think there were, yeah.
And then like at the very, very end credits, you see another family pulling up. So,
that looks exactly the same situation.
Not counting that though.
But I will say that this movie, I might have, so far, out of all the ones we reviewed for Year of the Empire, I think it has just the most solid effects. Because it's the stop motion is there, it's very solid. But also just the gore in it, it's great. Apparently there was so much gore that they made, they actually had to cut out a lot because they were like, this is kind of detracting from the actual storyline. That's just kind of fantasy horror.
Too good.
Too good. It was too solid.
Too solid of the gore. Al Gore. Sorry, that was Trump.
So, anyways, was this movie, I honestly just love dolls. It is, the best effects was the kills, but also the stop motion was good. I'm not going to say solid anymore. It just really was very good. And then also just all the dolls effects even wasn't stop motion. It was just a very great movie that
I'd recommend. I'd watch again.
The production value, I think, is just the highest that I've seen from Empire so far. Trancers might be my favorite up till this point, but this movie, I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I like it, and this movie has Ralph. Trancers didn't have Ralph. So that's definitely a point in this category. So what was your favorite kill from that movie, you would say?
Probably the, like, evil Cruella de Vil, like, stepmother that just got, like, a bunch of things happen to her.
Yeah, she got, like, she ended up jumping out a window and gets her face smashed in, but she gets a hammer to the head. They just keep
knife in the back.
Knife in the back. They keep throwing things at her, sticking her. They stab stuff in her foot. She, awesome. They get, like, the saws and start sawing off her foot and her limb. It's great. But there's also a very effective kill that I think was kind of underrated early on. Was one of the hitchhikers. She gets her face bashed against the wall. Oh, yeah, and what happens is she's on the ground, and you just see her keep getting, like, something off screen has her arms, and it's, like, pulling her towards the wall, and smashes into it, pulls back, more blood in the wall. And the reason I think it's really, like, a great kill is that you don't see any of the dolls yet, so it kind of keeps that mystique going on, like, what are they going to look like when you actually see the dolls.
Yeah.
But you get like this very bloody and intense kill out of it, which typically they just show the kills off screen when they don't want to like show like what the things look like too early. So I think that was a very good choice. It's just so many little things in this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of little stuff that added up.
The production is great. And it's interesting because after Re-Animator, Stuart Gordon and the producer Brian Usna, they were going to make another Lovecraftian movie, which we'll get to, called From Beyond. And he was talking with Charles Band, and they're like, yeah, we're going to do this. But first, you're just going to quickly make this like Dolls movie. It'll take 3 weeks, you'll be fine. And he was like, that's like the first time I heard about it. And I was like, all right, this is what I got to do in order to do the From the Beyond. I'll do Dolls. And, you know, it ended up being, like, not a huge moneymaker for him, but it influenced literally everything that Full Moon made from, like, ever.
You might not have Puppet Master without it.
I really don't think you would have Puppet Master. So, that alone, it influenced so much that came in the 90s for Charles Band and everything that they were putting out that I think it's noteworthy in that. But it's just a very good movie and, dare I say, solid.